My father's first words on entering Westminster Abbey yesterday were a pledge of service. It was a pledge to continue to serve, because for over 50 years, in every corner of the UK, across the Commonwealth, and around the world.
Please subscribe. It costs you nothing, but it truly means so much to me. It starts with a grieving boy, a girl who lost her sense of normal before she even understood why. And then, 20 years of silence sitting heavy between them. That kind of silence says everything. Prince William has lived his whole life under a microscope. His grief, his marriage, his role as a father, every move gets picked apart. Cameras follow him, headlines chase him, and opinions never stop. But even with all that exposure, one part of his life stayed locked away. Not just from the press, not just from the palace, from himself. Laura Lopes, the daughter of Queen Camilla, never had a royal title to lean on. She stayed in the background while the monarchy took center stage. Most people barely knew her name, yet she was quietly present during some of the biggest chapters of William's life. For over 2 decades, she existed on the edge of his world. Close, but never fully inside it. Like a sister he didn't know how to claim. A door he kept shut tight. This is what happened when that door finally opened. Long before the royal headlines exploded, Laura Rose Parker Bowles was just a little girl growing up in Wiltshire, England. Born on New Year's Day in 1978, she was the second child of Camilla Parker Bowles and retired British Army officer Andrew Parker Bowles. She had an older brother, Tom, and they lived at Bolehide Manor, an 8-bedroom country home surrounded by acres of land and calm countryside views. On the outside, it looked picture perfect. But even as a child, Laura could feel something was off. The phone calls that went quiet when she entered a room. The whispers behind closed doors. The tension that hung in the air like a storm about to break. And one name that kept coming up in low voices, Charles. She didn't understand what an affair meant. She didn't know how adult relationships could shatter entire families. But she noticed the way her mother's voice softened at that name, and the way her father's jaw tightened. Kids catch everything, especially what no one explains to them. By the time Laura hit her teenage years, the relationship between her mother and the Prince of Wales was no longer a secret. It was headline news. The media painted Camilla as the villain. Diana was framed as the betrayed princess, and Laura, she became the other woman's daughter. Just like that. She was 16 when her parents divorced in 1995. She was 17 when Diana told the BBC that her marriage had 3 people in it. She was 19 when Diana died in a tunnel in Paris and the world turned upside down. Cameras flashed, crowds cried, and anger quietly shifted toward her mother. But no one asked Laura how she felt, not once. In the middle of global mourning and royal chaos, she was invisible, a teenager carrying adult-level pressure without a voice. That kind of silence shapes you. It teaches you to step back, to stay private, to let the storm pass without saying a word. Laura learned early that quiet can be armor, privacy can be power, and sometimes the person saying the least is holding the most inside. Now flip to William. September 6, 1997, Westminster Abbey. 2 young boys in dark suits walking behind their mother's coffin while the entire world watched. William was just 15. Harry was 12. That walk burned itself into history and into William's heart. Grief hit him hard, and instead of falling apart publicly, he built walls, brick by brick, calm on the outside, guarded on the inside. People praised his composure, but those close to him knew it was protection. It was survival. Every time Diana's name resurfaced in the press, another brick went up. Every time he had to sit near Camilla, the woman connected to his mother's pain, the wall got thicker. He stayed respectful. He followed protocol. He did what a future king is trained to do. But acceptance? That was something else entirely. Reports years later suggested that even as an adult, William still wrestled with his feelings about Camilla's place in the family. Not anger, not cruelty, just distance, controlled, careful, guarded. And where did that leave Laura? She wasn't responsible for any of it. She didn't create the situation. She was simply born into it. Kind, low-key, and never chasing attention, she still became a living reminder of a chapter William never wanted. Family gatherings that included her symbolized something final. His father had moved on. The family he grew up with was gone. So he kept space. Not loudly, not dramatically, just quietly. Every event where Laura stood nearby was another reminder that life had changed forever. And for years, that was something he wasn't ready to face. The woman who had once been linked to his mother's heartbreak was now officially his stepmother, and her daughter, his stepsister. No amount of grief, no wall built high enough could erase that fact. William didn't reject Laura outright. He showed up. He did what was expected. He attended her wedding in 2006. In 2011, Laura's daughter Eliza even served as a bridesmaid at his own wedding in Westminster Abbey. On the surface, everything looked calm and respectful, but behind the smiles, there was distance. He was polite, measured, proper, but he was emotionally locked down. No warmth, no real sibling bond, just the basics. For 20 years, that careful distance seemed manageable, until it wasn't. Before the cold politeness, before the staged photos and public appearances, before flowers down the aisle, there were arguments, real ones, the kind that leave scars. Royal biographer Katie Nicholl wrote in her 2010 book William and Harry, Behind the Palace Walls, that the tension between William and Laura went deeper than awkward family dinners. This wasn't just stiff royal energy, this was pain talking. Two young people defending parents they loved, both believing the other side had caused damage that could never be undone. William was still carrying the trauma of losing Diana, a teenager forced to grieve in front of the world. A son who, like many kids in heartbreak, quietly wondered if he could have done something to stop it. That kind of guilt sticks, and sometimes it needs somewhere to land. Camilla's presence in his life felt like a reminder of what was gone. So when emotions ran high, some of that hurt pointed in her direction. But Laura wasn't about to sit silent. She had watched her own mother take relentless criticism. She had seen headlines, heard the whispers, felt the stares. Her childhood wasn't untouched either. So when William's grief clashed with her loyalty, she pushed back. According to Nicholl, there were moments when Laura looked straight at the future king and said, "Your father has ruined my life." 4 words, heavy, raw, honest. Those words weren't just blame. They were pain speaking. And in a strange way, they mirrored what William had been feeling all along. Different sides, same wound. One detail from those early years says a lot. As a child, when Charles would call the house, Laura sometimes picked up another phone and yelled at him to stop calling her mother. Imagine that. A young girl shouting down the line at the Prince of Wales trying to protect her home. She was guarding what she still had. William was guarding what he had lost. In that clash of protection and grief, something that could have turned into comfort became conflict instead. The sad part isn't that they argued, it's that they were fighting over the same heartbreak. Two kids trying to defend their worlds while those worlds were already shifting beyond their control. Both deserved steadiness. Neither really got it. And while William stepped further into global fame, Laura chose a totally different lane. No spotlight chase, no royal branding. She built her own life, quietly but solidly. She graduated from Oxford Brookes University with a degree in art history, the same subject Catherine later studied. Instead of leaning on royal connections, Laura focused on the art world. She interned at the Peggy Guggenheim Collection in Venice, then managed the Space Gallery in Belgravia in 2005, the very same month her mother married Charles. Talk about timing. She later co-founded 11 Fine Art, a contemporary gallery in London, and ran it for a decade without flashing royal ties for attention. No name dropping, no shortcuts, just work. Eventually, she launched her own curatorial practice focusing on figurative British artists. By 2025, she was part of the British Art Fair and recognized as a respected figure in London's art scene. Quiet success, earned, not handed. Laura married Harry Lopes in May 2006 at a 16th century church in Wiltshire. Around 250 guests attended, including William, Harry, Charles, and Camilla. The atmosphere reportedly felt more relaxed and heartfelt than many formal royal events. She wore a gown by Anna Valentine, the same designer her mother chose for her own wedding the year before. A subtle connection, a quiet full-circle moment. Through all of it, Laura stayed steady. No dramatic interviews, no public complaints, just moving forward on her own terms. Laura has 3 children, Eliza, born in 2008, and twins Gus and Louis, born in 2009. From day one, she made a clear choice. No spotlight childhood, no media circus, just normal moments, school runs, and family time protected from flashing cameras. In 2023, right before the coronation of King Charles, her son Gus broke his arm. Most kids would panic. Most parents would pull them out of a major event. But Gus still stood at the altar as a page of honor, arm in a cast, doing his duty without complaint. Calm, composed, quiet strength, the same way his mother has handled her whole life. Laura Lopes represents something rare inside royal circles, someone who picks decency over headlines, privacy over attention, and real life over performance. While others have leaned into titles and connections to build brands, she built something steady and personal. No noise, no drama, just authenticity. That kind of low-key loyalty often goes unnoticed, but in many ways, it's closer to the meaning of royal than the polished image people see on magazine covers. Now fast forward to Christmas 2024 at Sandringham. Around 45 guests gathered, making it one of the largest royal Christmas celebrations in years. The mood, layered, emotional. A lot had happened. King Charles was facing his cancer diagnosis with public resilience. Catherine had recently completed her own treatment and stood strong beside her family, earning widespread admiration. Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis ran around the historic grounds, blissfully unaware of the complicated history woven into those walls. And Laura was there again. For the second year in a row, she wasn't lingering on the edges. She wasn't just someone's +1, she was fully included. Walking toward church on a frosty Norfolk morning, present in a way she hadn't been for most of the past 2 decades. That mattered. But the atmosphere wasn't simple. It wasn't hostile either. It was charged, like a room filled with memories no one wanted to unpack. Smiles were polite. conversations careful. Underneath it all sat 20 years of shared history that nobody could erase. Observers noted Laura's usual composure. She didn't chase warmth that didn't feel natural. She didn't force interactions. She stood steady, as always, watching, absorbing, revealing very little. She and her brother Tom arrived privately to church, avoiding the long public walk with the rest of the family. Even inside the heart of the royal spotlight, she managed to stand just outside it. That's her style. But something had shifted. William noticed. He saw Laura moving comfortably through Sandringham, welcomed by his father. No awkwardness, no tension from her side, just belonging. And that stirred something in him he hadn't wanted to examine. It wasn't anger, not resentment, it was recognition. Slowly he began to understand that the space he kept from Laura wasn't truly about her. It was about something deeper, something unresolved. Christmas 2024 didn't fix everything. There were no dramatic conversations, no big emotional breakthroughs, but it created a crack in a wall that had stood firm for years. And sometimes, one small crack is enough to start real change. At the center of all this is one name William can never escape: Diana. She shapes everything. His loyalty, his sensitivity around Camilla, the way family gatherings sometimes feel less like celebrations and more like careful negotiations. Some people say grief fades with time. For William, it hasn't disappeared. It's evolved. It shows up in subtle ways, in guarded expressions, in careful boundaries, in the instinct to protect memories fiercely. Diana wasn't just his mother, she was his safe place. In a world built on duty and rules, she gave him unconditional love. Not for being an heir, not for being a future king, just for being William, a boy who needed warmth and reassurance. When she died, he didn't just lose her. He lost that pure, uncomplicated feeling of being loved without expectation. In the years after, he guarded that memory like treasure. Sometimes that protection looked like strength. Other times, it came across as distance. But underneath it all, it was grief still speaking. It was never coldness, it was protection. William wasn't pushing people away for the sake of it. He was guarding something sacred, the memory of his mother. He couldn't save her. He couldn't rewrite what happened, but he could protect what she meant to him. And he held on to that with everything he had, against time, against changing narratives, against anyone trying to soften or reshape how the world remembered Diana. Laura Lopes never hurt him. He knew that. She knew that too. But grief doesn't play fair. Sometimes it sticks itself to innocent faces. Sometimes it links pain to people who had nothing to do with the original wound. Laura's presence wasn't the problem. The loss was. And loss has a long shadow. After that Christmas gathering at Sandringham, something shifted inside William. A quiet question surfaced. One that follows anyone carrying old grief. How long will you let yesterday decide how you live today? For years, he kept Laura at arm's length, thinking it honored Diana. But the Diana he truly knew, warm, compassionate, deeply human, wouldn't have wanted distance. She believed in connection. She reached out to people. She broke barriers. If anything, she would have encouraged him to soften, not harden. The change didn't happen overnight. This isn't a movie scene with one dramatic conversation fixing decades of emotion. That's not how real families work. And definitely not how the British royal family works. Change came in small moves, subtle gestures, moments that only make sense when you look back. In 2011, Laura's daughter Eliza walked down the aisle of Westminster Abbey as a bridesmaid at William's wedding. That wasn't random. That was intentional, public, symbolic. It quietly said, "You belong here." Then in 2023, Laura's sons Gus and Louis served as pages of honor at the coronation. They stood inside Westminster Abbey. They appeared on the Buckingham Palace balcony. They were in the official photographs. That is not a side role. That is visible inclusion. Laura herself was present, acknowledged, steady, part of the moment. By Christmas 2024, the atmosphere felt different. Not perfect, not magically healed, but easier. And when Tom Parker Bowles later shared that he and Laura would skip one Christmas due to an alternating family arrangement, it wasn't dramatic. It was normal. Blended families juggle schedules all the time. That normality matters. The fact that Laura and her brother are now casually included in royal holiday discussions shows something important. Their presence is no longer tense or symbolic. It's routine. And routine means walls have quietly lowered. What William is learning, slowly, is that honoring his mother doesn't require shutting doors on others. Diana didn't stand for isolation. She stood for empathy. Keeping Laura distant didn't protect Diana's legacy. It only extended old hurt. Now look at the next generation. George, Charlotte, Louis, Eliza, Gus, Louis Lopes. They won't grow up carrying the emotional battles of the 1990s. They'll grow up as cousins, running through Sandringham fields, sharing holidays, laughing without knowing the weight that once hung over their parents. That's the real legacy. Not crowns, not titles, not palace balconies, but giving the next generation something lighter than what you carried. Laura never wanted to be a symbol. She never wanted to represent scandal or division. She simply wanted to exist as herself. not just as Camilla's daughter, not as someone defined by William's distance. She showed up to the big events, she let her children take part in history, and she did it without trying to turn it into attention or advantage. That quiet consistency says more than headlines ever could. William is still learning how to carry grief without letting it steer his relationships. That's not weakness, that's human. By opening up, even a little, to Laura, by seeing her as someone worthy of warmth instead of distance, he's reflecting something of Diana's spirit, compassion, growth, emotional courage, the kind she would have recognized instantly, and she would have been proud of that shift. When we see the royals on Christmas walkabouts, coordinated outfits, polished smiles, perfect waves, that's the public performance. But behind closed doors, it's more complicated. It's forgiveness. It's old pain resurfacing. It's choosing connection over pride. That's where the real story lives. Laura Lopes has lived her entire life inside that quieter story, out of the spotlight, steady, graceful, never demanding applause. And maybe that's the most powerful role of all? If this gave you a new way of looking at the royal family, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think William has truly made peace with this chapter of his past? And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what comes next.